What's up, guys? It's the homie Everyday Shooter coming to you today with a pretty much basic configuration setting, some slight optimization. Mainly, it's going to be for first-person shooter players, particularly for me would be Call of Duty. I'm going to do some Call of Duty in-game settings, as well as some Windows settings, some Nvidia control panel settings, and the config files for COD as well, just a basic alteration there. All this in mind with lowering system latency and improving and maximizing the hardware you have to work with. This is mainly going to be for PC players because that's what I'm on, and yeah. This is coming from, months and months of me watching videos, trial and error, having to restore from making mistakes, and also just having to at one point reinstall Windows altogether, because like I said, trial and error is the only way to learn. So I'm going to share with you just the basics of what I've been doing for the last probably 3 months since I've upgraded my PC. All that being said, here we go, guys. First thing we're going to do is create a restore point. You're going to go down here to your search tab, create restore point. The reason we're doing this is because after we go through this video, if you follow me step by step and for some reason you're like, I don't like any of this, I don't like improving my system, maybe you hit something wrong, you did something wrong, maybe your system isn't responding well to whatever we're going to be doing, you can go back and go to the restore point like none of this ever happened. So you're going to click on this here. You're going to go down here to create a restore point. You're going to name it whatever you want, and then click create. It's that simple. The next thing we're going to do, just to see what kind of progress we're making, is we're going to go into Call of Duty, load that game up. I'm going to go down to multiplayer. Actually go over to, to private match. This is how we get to benchmark. Don't ask me why they did this. Go to private match. Click on benchmark. At this point, the start, you have to move something to make the start point work, which it does now. And then you'll click start to run your benchmark. Go ahead and do that now. Okay, guys, once we run our benchmark, we're going to either want to take a screenshot or take your phone out, grab a picture of that. We want some kind of base point for reference for all the changes we're going to make today so that we can see if we make any gains at all. And even if we don't grab a bunch of gains in the FPS department, we should lower some of our system latency, which is going to be what I'm talking about is from the time you push a button on your controller or mouse and keyboard to the time it translates to your monitor. First thing we're going to do is go into our startup apps. Under system settings here, whether you're on Windows 10 or 11, shouldn't really matter. You might have to go to a different place to type it in. It's going to be the same thing essentially. These are the apps that are going to fire up as soon as you start your computer. The only thing that I keep on is things that I know I'm going to have in place every single time I log onto my PC, which is going to be my Go XLR, which controls my audio for my microphone, my headphones. So that's the only thing I'm really running right out of the gate. I've got the GitHub update on for now. I may turn that off. I'm not noticing it running a lot in the background, so I'm fine with that for now. This isn't really going to affect anything. Literally, if you want to use any of these apps, you're just going to click on them when you want to use them instead of them just coming on and running in the background right out of the gate. So we're going to back out of that now. All right, guys, the next thing we're going to look at are installed apps. These are going to come up here. So we want to delete anything that we know we're not using because most of these programs at some point are going to fire up and run in the background, check if they need to be updated, check if they need to be used in any scenario, even if it's something that seems like that shouldn't be the case. We want to limit these processes as much as possible, especially for something that is not necessary or that we do not use. I've already pretty much done to mine what I want done, so it's going to really be up to you. There's things like, Cortana or, a calculator. All these things you don't need. Like, for instance, Microsoft Edge I don't need. It doesn't give me the option to uninstall that because Microsoft is pretty much a Nazi regime. Let's see what else we have here. I keep my notepad for use. Obviously, you're going to keep anything of importance. Nvidia, Spotify I use as well. So, you know, you don't want to get rid of everything, but this is a gaming PC for me. I don't use it for anything else. So any other nonsense that's on there that allows you to be, that allows you to uninstall, get rid of it. You don't need it. All right, guys, the next thing we're going to do is choose a power plan. You're going to go in for Windows 10. Should be the same thing. Now, what we've got here under preferred plans, most of the time it's going to run on balance because that's recommended. Definitely never want to run on power saver. What that's going to do is anytime the CPU doesn't have a task, it's going to fluctuate. It's going to fluctuate up and down every time there's not a task. The CPU is going to power down to its lowest setting. What that's going to do is in between, even if you're gaming, you know, you go in between games or there's not a frame to render, you're sitting still for a second, the CPU is going to slow itself down, and in order for it to pick itself back up, there's going to create a latency there. So I have mine on high performance. This is going to cause a little more heat, but if you, if you know how to properly cool your CPU and GPU, your computer in general, it shouldn't really be an issue for you. But I mean, all you got to do is try it out, click on high performance, run it. If you don't like it, you can go back to balance. I think this is just going to overall create a more stable, should create more stable frames in theory. You know, you should have higher low firsts because you're not going to have that fluctuation up and down as much. It just makes sense. Just do it. You have a great system. You've put money into it. You may as well get the most out of it, right? Next thing we're going to do is go into our display settings under system settings. We want to go down to, let's go to scale, make sure we are advanced display. Just make sure your monitor here has its refresh rate chosen. This is very important. I've learned this through trial and error. My first PC and monitor, I never changed this. And I went in and it was set on 60 hertz, and I've been playing on 144 hertz monitor for 6 months. I changed it 3 months later after a Windows update. I went back in and checked it, and I'd been playing for another 3 minutes on 60 hertz because it reset itself. My advice, every single time you do a Windows update, just go in here and take a second and check and make sure that your refresh rate is set in Windows, because if not, you're never reaching those hertz no matter what your monitor, no matter what is set in the game. It's just something very important to always check. Next step, guys, we are going into the Nvidia control panel. I have mine on my taskbar. You should have Nvidia control panel, not the GeForce Experience. This is an app, Nvidia control panel. If you don't have it installed, you're going to want to go into the Microsoft Store and install this. This is the only way to change the global settings for Nvidia. The GeForce Experience app does not allow you to do so. So you're going to want to go ahead into the Microsoft Store, download this. It's a free app. I suggest pinning it to your taskbar because it's something you're going to want to, again, after any NVIDIA driver update and sometimes Windows update, you're going to go in here and make sure these settings haven't changed. All right, guys, the first thing we're going to look at here in the NVIDIA control panel is we're going to be on global settings under manage 3D settings. Global settings, this is going to mean that anytime your GPU is using itself to display graphics for you, meaning just in any app, anything you're doing when this computer is on, these are the global settings for that. So there's a lot of confusion. Some people are setting things in global that they want applied in specific games so they don't have to go in between. But I don't recommend doing that. I just don't think it's good for your GPU to be running, for instance, a lot of people for power management mode for global have this prefer maximum performance. I wouldn't suggest doing that in global settings because then you're going to be maxing out your GPU all the time, even if you're just freaking using a calculator or doing something in the search bar here. It's just unnecessary to create higher temps for no reason. So we're going to do global settings first, which apply across the board, and then we're going to go here to this tab. Is going to be program settings. It's going to allow us to change our settings for each game. In global settings here, first thing we're going to do is start at the top. Most of this stuff is going to be preset by NVIDIA, and most of their settings are pretty on point. I mean, they know what they're doing, so we're not going to change too much here. The image scaling I set to off. I'm never using image scaling at any point in-game or out of game. Ambient occlusion off. Anisotropic filtering, application controlled, meaning that whatever game or app we have open, we'll change that setting in that game. It's going to be off. Gamma correction will be on. Anti-aliasing anti-aliasing mode, be application controlled. I'm just going to breeze through these. Background application max frame rate off. We don't need to be trying to achieve maximum frames for a background app at any point in time. It's taking away GPU resources for no reason. CUDA GPUs all. System fallback policy, make sure that's set to driver default. Some people don't have that option. That's okay. Low latency mode, you definitely want that on. Don't need it on ultra because we're going to change that to on plus boost in game for Call of Duty. This is just low latency mode because just in general, we want to have low latency in everything we do. Max frame rate, make sure we turn that to off. We're also going to change this specific to games. Monitor technology, make sure this is on fixed refresh. G-Sync compatible, yeah, if you're going to be using G-Sync, that setting will be applied elsewhere. You don't want it trying to use G-Sync when it's not needed. Just put it on fixed refresh, trust me. Open GL rendering GPU, just make sure that's set to your GPU. Power management mode, again, here we're going to do it normal. We'll change that somewhere else. Preferred refresh rate for our monitor, it should give you your monitor here, your highest available. Shader cache size, driver default, that's what I set mine on. You could, if you know the specifics of your driver, some people try to assign this specifically, but your driver pretty much is set. You can set that to unlimited if you want and give it a try. Just be aware of what you're changing and run some benchmarks, play some games, try it out, and then make sure and go back and change it to what it was if it doesn't work out for you. Texture filtering quality, want to make sure that's on high performance. Let's see what else. Also, vertical sync, make sure you have this turned off. If not, that's going to create a whole lot of latency when creating frames. Just make sure it's off. All right. At that point, once you change that, there's going to be a button down here that says apply. Go ahead and click that. Your screen may flash black for a second. It's all good. No worries. All right. After that, moving on. Program settings. You want to find your game here. You can click this drop down menu, look here and see if you see it. I have Call of Duty right here. If you don't see your game, just click add right here. And then it should give you the option for Call of Duty. Or if you don't see it there, even after that, you can go here to browse and you should be able to find it there. All right, program settings. Here's where we're going to make some changes. For image scaling, I'm still using global setting because I'll never recommend using image scaling. It's going to create so much latency that it's just completely unnecessary. Everything else we're going to keep as it's already set. These global settings are pretty good for everything except when we get down to low latency mode. We're still going to keep that on. Max frame rate still going to be off. This is still going to be on the global setting. Here's where we're going to change one of the global settings. Power management mode, we want to make sure that's on prefer maximum performance, and that's only going to apply when in game. Everything else I think here is going to stay the same. You guys can look at these here, pause it if you need to. All right. Change resolution, very important here. We're going to go into, again, we have to make sure that we are set up for the hardware that we have. You're going to want to make sure your PC is set to whatever you are running. I'm running 1080p. That's the option you want there. Refresh rate, whatever the refresh rate of your monitor is, this is what you want this to be as well. Desktop color settings, the only thing you really need to change here is, for me personally, and from what I've seen from a lot of gamers, the digital vibrance here, it should come, I think, at 50% maybe. I'm not sure exactly what it comes preset on, but I run mine at 65. Some people run this all the way up to 100. Just gives you a much more crisp looking picture in game. So make sure you change that, apply. The next thing we're going to look at is adjust desktop size and position. The only thing we're doing again here is making sure that we have this set on no scaling and that we have our resolution and refresh rate matches here as well. Set up G-Sync. I don't use G-Sync, so I don't have this enabled at all. I find that the latency that is applied to, really, if you're playing a first-person game and it's not a competitive game, it's not a first-person shooter, it's a single-player game, and you want it to look as good as possible, enable G-Sync, have fun. You're not worried about latency so much in that scenario. But for any kind of competitive first-person shooter, multiplayer, battle royale game, you definitely do not want to be using G-Sync. Setting up multiple displays. You know, if you are using a Elgato like I am to stream, you're going to have that set up as your second display in order to share your main display screen. We're going to go down to video, adjust video color settings. How do you make color adjustments? You want to change this to Nvidia settings, not the video player settings, because you're going to want to use your Nvidia card in almost every situation, because it's great technology that you paid for. So for color, you're not going to change anything here. These will be stock. Gamma, the same. The only thing you're really going to change in advanced is make sure this isn't limited and is set to full, so you get the full range of colors, which is going to just give you a better picture overall. Hit apply when you're done with that as well. Video image settings, I don't really change anything here. All right, that's going to conclude the NVIDIA control panel settings. Just make sure, again, those are all, you've changed those, and hit apply on everything. For this all to take effect, we're going to need to restart our computer. We'll do that when we're done with all of these settings changes. All right, guys, the next thing we're going to do is go over our in-game settings. We're going to go over to graphics here. So I have mine set on full screen exclusive. If that works for you, you definitely want to have it set on that. It's going to create the lowest latency possible for in between that and full screen borderless. You definitely want to be exclusive. I know some people have to run as borderless. That's the way their game's set up, and you know that's okay too. But full screen exclusive is going to give you the higher frames and the lower latency. So if you don't have it set on that and your game runs with that, leave that set there. For your display adapter, you definitely want to make sure you have your I know this seems like such an elementary thing, but you'd be surprised that if you have a built-in Intel graphics card that some people don't realize that that's what they're running their game on, and I'm sorry for you. For your max screen refresh rate, you're going to want to have it set to exactly what your monitor is set for. Display resolution, I mean, if you're running 1080, you're going to want it to be 1920 by 1080. If it's 1440, I'm pretty sure you've got that down. Aspect ratio automatic. One thing we want to go ahead and do now is click restart shaders preloading. What that's going to do, I'm not going to do it because mine's already changed, but you want to click restart. It's not going to restart it right now, but next time you load the game, it's going to reload those shaders. And after all the changes we're going to make here, and then next in the config files, when you restart the game, you're going to want to restart those shaders in order for all those changes to apply. Display gamma, always 2.2 sRGB. The only time it would be the other option is if you're playing on a television. Brightness, that's up to you. I have mine set on 55. NVIDIA Reflex low latency, big here. You definitely want to have this on plus boost. It's going to create the most low latency mode available to you, and this is some technology that NVIDIA has definitely gotten right. Eco mode preset, have that set on custom. Nobody's quite sure exactly what this is doing yet. Until then, we're not going to fuck with it. VSync off, custom frame rate. I set mine to unlimited. You set that to whatever you want. Show more. What this is doing is, if you want, while you're in your menus, to have lower frames so that you're not putting so much stress on your CPU and GPU, and it'll allow them to cool down some in between games as well. So that's the reason for lowering those. Focus mode, don't know exactly what that is yet, but what I'm seeing from everyone online and all the videos I've watched, everybody's running that on 0 for now until we learn more about it. We're going to go over after you display. When you go to back out, it's going to ask you to apply those settings. Go ahead and do that, and then we're going to move over to quality tab. Your graphic preset, I have mine on, it says custom, but if you are starting all over and you don't care about the settings you have now, go ahead and put it to minimum. That'll be a good starting place for us. I'm going to go through and share with you what my settings are. My settings are all set for performance, so a lot of them are going to have less visual quality, but higher frames, lower latency, and just less stuttering and hitching. And I think just a better overall experience. This is just my personal opinion. It's totally up to you. Your render resolution, you want it at 100. So whatever if you're 1440p, 1080, none of that matters, but you want this set on 100 because you want to fully render to that resolution and not higher or lower. Dynamic resolution, turn to off. Upscaling and sharpening, there's a lot of different options here. I think the best that I've found from watching other videos, seeing other streamers, Fidelity FX Cast is going to give you the sharpest picture with the least amount of cost in frames. Intel XeSS is garbage. Nvidia DLSS, again, if you're playing a single player game and you're just trying to have, you know, a sharper image and you're not worried about latency, Nvidia DLSS is pretty cool for that and image scaling. But you don't want to use any of this for competitive multiplayer online games where you're competing against other people, because it's just going to cost more latency and it's not worth it. So Fidelity, FX cast, there you go. For the cast strength, I run mine at 100. You can run this all the way down to 50. If you run it at a higher number and you notice you're getting some hitching or stuttering in the game, you don't have consistent frames, you might want to lower this. This is really going to be something you're going to have to play with a little bit. I would recommend, if you're not sure, just starting out, set it on 70 and then go up or down from there if you have any issues. I don't have any problem running it at 100, so I get a little bit sharper image. So that's why I have it set to that number. Your VRAM scale target, I have mine at 80. Most people run it, I think, around 60. This is just the amount of VRAM you're giving the game access to. So if you have a lot of other stuff running in the background and you don't have a lot of VRAM, but as you can see down here in the bottom right hand corner, I have all of this to play with. So right now it's not an issue for me. It really just depends. If your VRAM, you know, you're up to here and your target's set to here, then you might want to raise that up so that you have more headroom. Variable rate shading, definitely turn this on. This is something new that's just been added in Modern Warfare 3. I'm just learning more about it now, but it does help give you a better frame rate. What it's doing is that as you're moving through the game, things that are out of focus or out on the peripheral, or, you know, some foliage over here, that they're just cutting back on the rendering of that and the shadows and putting more to what's directly in front of you. So it helps improve just the quality of your image by taking resources away from things that don't matter. Hopefully they take this even further in the future. Definitely want this turned off. Texture resolution, low. I'm just going to run through these really quickly now. Very important to keep that shader quality on low if you're interested in getting higher frames. I put my terrain memory to max. Actually, I'm going to lower that to medium now. I've heard that it's just, anyways, I'm changing that. All right, we're going to go over to view, apply those settings. View, field of view, obviously you want to run what you're comfortable with. People run anywhere from 90 to 120. I've always been comfortable with a higher number. I have mine set on 119 because I'm just trying out something, and I've heard that you get better aim assist if you are not running it on 120. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but for now, I'll take the 119 over 120 just for the chance. ADS field of view, you want to run with affected, especially if you're running a higher FOV. Weapon field of view, you want that on wide. Third person field of view, I have mine on 90. This is wide, and I'm just going to run through the rest of these settings. All right, we're going to back out of there, guys. Go down to interface here. What is it? Crosshairs. So a lot of people are changing over. This is the first time we've had this option to static crosshairs. I don't really know the details of it, but it is worth giving it a try. I haven't tried it yet. I've just been seeing this recently. But, you know, go ahead and experiment with it on and static, see which one you prefer better. Under telemetry, obviously, if you're on PC, this is where you're going to add all the stuff you see here at the top of the screen. I like to see everything. I like to know what's going on at all times. So I have all of that turned on. All right, guys, we're going to back out of here. Go ahead and close the game out for now. All right, guys, last but not least, we're going to go here into our COD configuration files. You can either type in search File Explorer or just click on it here. I have mine down here. You're going to want to go into Documents, Call of Duty, Players, and then we're looking for options.4.cod23. Now, the only thing we're going to change today, there's actually, you know, 6-7 things we can change in here that are going to improve performance and give you a few more frames. But the most important one to start is going to be right up here at the top. It says System. Our second option here is Render Worker Count. 1.0 equals, here I have 8. Mine came as default of 12, but I only have 8 performance cores. And so what we're going to trying to do here is limit Call of Duty's access to only our performance cores, because for 12th generation, 13th generation, 14th generation Intel CPUs have efficiency cores as well. We don't want Call of Duty using those because we want the highest performance while in game. All right, so what I've put together here, guys, is just a little reference chart here for you. So the first thing we're going to do here is we are going to open up our taskbar. Put this over here on the side. What we're looking for here is the performance tab. Let's go ahead and open this a little further so you can see. Actually, I'm just going to maximize it. All right, so what we're looking for here is what CPU you have. I have 13th gen i9. So you want to keep that in mind there, note what you have, and then you want to see your cores and logical processors. If you want to write those two things down, that'd be great, or if you can remember it, even better. We're going to hop back over here. So if you have any from the beginning of Intel CPUs up to 11th generation, the two numbers we saw at the bottom, you're going to want to see what those say. So if yours, for instance, was 10 core 20 thread, you're going to take the number 7 and plug it in between these parentheses here. All right. If you have 12th generation, 13th generation, or 14th generation, then you're going to want to refer to the bottom of this chart here to get the value that you're going to place here. Once you have that number plugged in the parentheses here, you're going to go up here to File and just click Save. And that's that. Close it out. All right, and now we are going to want to restart our PC. All right, once we've got our PC restarted, last step here, we're going to reopen Call of Duty, go back into our benchmark, and see if we made any gains, guys. And if anything didn't work out for you, or you have any questions at all, feel free to shoot me a message here on Discord, TFDGR, or here on YouTube. And guys, I hope you had good luck with it. I hope that improves your latency. I hope you feel a difference in game. And we're going to do a more intensive settings overhaul video here soon. Please give me a like, subscribe, follow on Twitch, Everyday Shooter. Thanks again, guys.